Christian was 31 years old and in the Navy for 11 years. He joined in 2001. He was very funny. He was very good at his job. He loved the Navy. He loved his teammates. He was very funny. He was he looked like Vin Diesel, so he got a lot of that kind of stuff. He was just a big guy, but he was so nice and honorable, and he was just a nice boy, you know. But growing up, he wrecked a lot of cars. He was always experimenting, so electronics eventually became his field, but every remote control got taken apart, every car engine got taken apart. There were fires as the result of all his experiments, and he was always experimenting with something. And he loved animals, so we always had a lot of animals. He was just, we had guns. I taught him to shoot, and he really enjoyed, he enjoyed that. We lived in the desert, so he rode motorcycles, and he raced cars, and he did all those kind of high risky boy things, but he just loved doing it. He joined in January of 2001, before the towers came down. When he joined, it was, before a lot of the kind of revenge fervor that hit the United States. He really was a man of service. He was going to serve because that's what we did. That's kind of what our family did. And that's why he joined. He didn't join out of a sense of revenge or anger or any of those kinds of things. He never had animosity for the people in the countries in which he served. That's just not who he was. I think I was more fearful of Afghanistan because it seems more random. It seems like a random place to be with regards to, gosh, I don't even know how to explain it. I guess because I was so familiar with regards to some of the situations that happened when the Russians were there, it seemed like a very harsh terrain to try to maneuver in. And if nothing else, it was the terrain itself that you could battle, with regards to tunnels and mountains and the cold and the heat. So that's really what I was more worried about, I thought, when I thought of Afghanistan with regards to just the environment is such a harsh environment to try to survive in, just to survive in without regardless of warring in that type of terrain. Christian was with special operations on a SEAL team. And so he was the electronics guy. He was the communications guy. He could fix the equipment and carry the equipment. And he was deployed with the SEALs on their missions. When I spoke to him about it before his deployment, he believed in what he was doing with regards to helping the Afghani people. He felt that he was working within the infrastructure of the Afghani mission to kind of help the country as a whole. And he was very proud of what he was doing, and he liked the Afghan people. He really enjoyed, and the animals, the dogs. He sent me lots of pictures of dogs. He was having fun with his teammates, and with the Afghan people. He had Beanie Babies that he would give to children, and I would have to send him dog bones and food, candy. He didn't eat candy himself, but we had these suckers I would always send him so he could give them out to children. So he enjoyed that. That was a big part of who he was. And he was just trying to keep people safe. He believed that he was keeping people safe. I got a phone call at 6 in the morning. I was in Arizona at the time. At 6 o'clock in the morning on March 10th, I got a phone call that he had been shot in the head. At the time, they told me they thought that he was expected to live. They weren't sure of the nature of the injuries. I found out later that was, not the case. That when I spoke to the neurosurgeon, that he had died instantly when he was shot. He died before he hit the ground. So he was on a 4-member team that day, and when he was shot, the other SEAL members were able to take him off the roof and keep him alive until he could be medevaced, where he was medevaced to Kandahar. They did a craniotomy on him, which when I flew to Germany to Landstuhl, and then met him in Landstuhl, and they kept him alive for another 3 days so that we could harvest his organs, because he was an organ donor. So his organs were donated to the European Union, which is what he wanted. So, but he never, of course, regained consciousness, or they removed a large portion of his brain in Kandahar. It was very difficult. It was unimaginable. His father had died many years before, so it was just he and I and my daughter. She was in college at the time. And so to tell her that her brother had been shot and to take her to Germany, it was just tragic. It was, I think the biggest shock was I didn't expect it. You know, he had been in the military for so long. He had been deployed so many times. This time he was on a team with highly trained, highly competent people who had his back. I was shocked by it. I just didn't, based on percentages, I just really didn't, it never occurred to me that he wouldn't come home. It just never occurred to me. So to get that call, and not until I saw him, when I got the call, I actually was thinking, you know, that he could survive this, that if he had a traumatic brain injury, you know, we could survive this. He could come home and I could take care of him. But when I saw him, you know, in Landstuhl, I knew that he would not survive. And so it's just my daughter and myself now. Our family just, like my daughter said, she felt like an orphan just because he was such a big person. I mean, physically a big person, but just a really big personality. That's one of the things that all of his friends, you know, the Navy has this Facebook page for him, and he's got like 10,000 followers. All of his friends from all of his years of deployment who just wrote in and told me all the funny stories of all that. He was such a funny guy. So there are a lot of really funny stories about him, that some of the things he did. His teammates, you know, have all reached out to say what a great guy he was, and he is so missed. You know, he's missed by his Navy friends too. And you know, I think about it, you know, and I think about that week that he died. I looked in one of the military publications for that same week, and it's like 12 children died, you know, not just my son, but a lot of people have died. Not just our military people, but the Afghani people. It's just, you know, so I know I'm not alone in that, and I know that I'm not special in that. One of the things that I was told was that they were in this gunfight with the Al-Qaeda, and one of the teammates told me, well, we killed the man that killed Christian. And all I could think of in that moment was, he's just somebody else's child. That's just another dead child in my mind. You know, revenge does not repair this, doesn't change it. Anger doesn't change it. You know, nothing changes it. It's just this emptiness and this loss that, you know, you can't be mad at other people about. He chose this life. He loved what he was doing. So I can't, you know, I would never want to change that for him, and he would never have changed it either. So it's just, you know, it's just a loss that we live through every day. He really liked the Afghani people, and he felt that they were there to keep people safe and not to let Al-Qaeda get a stronger foothold. And so it wasn't the villages or the people that he felt were the combatants. You know, it wasn't that. It was people that he felt that were being imposed upon. And so he was there to do a job to keep them safe, to keep his teammates safe. He wasn't there to conquer a country or, do anything aggressive. He was there as in defense, in his mind, and in defense. It's not, we read the names on Memorial Day down at the Vietnam Memorial. There was a reading of the names of all the soldiers, sailors, airmen that had been killed since September 11th with regards to, in the Gulf, 6,970. But that's just Americans. So I cannot imagine what the loss is to all the countries and all the civilians in the war zones since this began, more than 10 years ago. The loss is so tragic. It's going to change our countries for generations to come. People that have come back, living with PTSD, in the workplace, it's just going to change the landscape of organizational development in all countries that have participated in these campaigns. Because these people are back, and they're back with their families, and they're struggling, and there aren't enough services because there's not enough understanding of what it is to live with this when you come home. I know that after Iraq, Christian really had a rough couple of years, and he was still in the military. So I can't imagine the people that separate and then try to go home and live these normal lives, but they cannot, because they're changed. They're just changed for generations to come.